Welcome to Entrepreneurial Oomph with Deborah Perlman. I'm so excited to have another wonderful guest with us today. And this gentleman actually has a very eclectic background, and he's going to share some of that with us. And for you guys who are listening, especially the guys, there's a term called serial entrepreneur. And you know what? I know plenty of women who are also serial entrepreneurs. This guy is the guy's guy. All right. He started with an idea and he turned it into, I don't know what it's now, probably a multi-billion dollar idea. And he's started several businesses and he is a wonderful human being. He plays with a band. He'll talk about his love and passion for jazz as well as for square dancing, of all things. So I'm really proud and honored and privileged to call this gentleman my dear friend, Mr. Steve Simon. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Simon so he can give himself a little bit more of an intro if he'd like. So, Steve, is there anything you want to add to what I just said?
No, but thank you so much, Deborah. It's a joy and a pleasure to be on your podcast, and I love you dearly. So just give you a little bit of background. I've gone from the printing and publishing industry into the finance industry, into the automotive space. And through all of that, I've also been a wannabe jazz musician. Actually, I've led jazz bands for the last 30 years. I'm a volunteer producer for USO and Armed Forces Entertainment, and I've done shows for them all over the world. But, you know, I'm a serial deal junkie, better known as a serial entrepreneur, and I'm proud of it. I'm still hooked on it. I'll turn 80 next year, and I'm still going at 100 miles an hour.
It's hard to keep up with you with all the things that you're doing, and I'm seeing things all over the place. So what Steve didn't tell you is that, and I haven't actually seen this. Do you actually participate in the square dancing, or are you the coordinator of it?
No, here. I live here in Brevard, in the mountains of Brevard, North Carolina. And a year ago, we started a thing called Square Dance Brevard for family-friendly square dance. You don't have to know how to do it, but it's so very, very apropos to living in the mountains and giving my background in producing concerts and shows and festivals. I decided to volunteer my services, and it's become iconic. We get 200 to 300 people once a month, last Friday of every month. Actually, this coming Friday will be the next one. And, you know, I just organize it and take photographs and videos and welcome people. But my dancing days are over.
Got it. Okay, so all of that being said, I just want to go back now to, I had mentioned in the intro, and you've shared the story with us, and you said, just so all of our listeners know, that we already have permission to go wherever the conversation is going to flow organically. There's nothing off limit, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so let's go back to the very first idea you had that is no longer yours. Can you give us a little background about that?
Absolutely. So back in the 80s, when we were all getting acclimated to the horrible news of the AIDS pandemic, my youngest brother, Joel, contracted AIDS. And, you know, the realization was he was in the prime of his life. At some point in the not too distant future, I'd be responsible for taking care of him on all levels. And in an effort to understand the dynamics of dealing with somebody who has a terminal disease, I volunteered to become a participant in a local AIDS organization, AIDS service organization, which was kind of like Big Brothers and Big Sisters. It was called the AIDS Buddy Program. And in that program, you became like a big brother to a gentleman who was living with AIDS. And it gave me, you know, really good exposure to all of the dynamics. Having said that, it was Christmas time, and this is back in the late 80s. It was Christmas time, and my AIDS buddy in that program had asked me if I would loan him some money to buy presents for his niece and nephew. And one of the things that we were told over and over by the organizers of the AIDS Buddy program was, if you're going to tell somebody you're going to be at their house at Tuesday at 2 o'clock, be there Tuesday at 2 o'clock. The other thing was, do not get into any kind of financial transaction with your AIDS buddy because it'll just cause stress. They can't afford to pay you back. And, so he asked me if he could borrow some money to buy gifts for his niece and nephew. And just out of rote, I just said to him, we're not allowed to do that. I'm sorry, we can't. And as I'm saying it, I'm saying, who's going to know? I mean, I can certainly afford to help him out. And he turned to me and said, well, how about if I name you as my beneficiary in my life insurance policy? I said, no, I don't want that. I said, well, let me think about it. I went home that night and my first thought was, yeah, my Christmas present to my AIDS buddy is I'm going to buy the gifts for him to give to his niece and nephew. The other thought I had from my entrepreneurial side of my brain was, a terminally ill person who's got a life insurance policy, that's a receivable that's 100% guaranteed to be paying off. And as so many of these young men that are afflicted with AIDS, they get to a point where they're too ill, they're too sick, they're too weak to continue working, and they have to give up their job. And at that point, they end up networking through a labyrinth of bureaucracy just to put food on the table. But in many cases, part of their benefit package when they were fully employed was a life insurance policy. And in often cases, those life insurance policy premiums will get waived when they become terminally ill. So I started thinking about, well, there's maybe an opportunity here. So I went back the next day to my AIDS buddy. I told him that I'd be more than happy to help him out with his Christmas presents, which I did. But then I went to one of the lawyers who had represented me in my businesses and asked him, is there any legal ramification for purchasing the death benefit rights to a terminally ill person's life insurance policy so that they can have cash now, even if the policy has no cash value, and then you benefit from the death benefit upon their demise? And the answer was there is no restriction on it. Just be mature, responsible, and morally correct in the way you do it. So from that concept, I started a company called Living Benefits and American Life Resources for the sole purpose of providing a benefit, putting life back into life insurance for terminally ill people. But I started very quietly, very slowly in the Miami area where I was living at the time. And within a matter of weeks of having spoken to a couple of executive directors of AIDS-related organizations, I got a call from a journalist with the Miami Herald. And he said to me, I heard what you're doing. My friend is the executive director of the organization that you're working with. I'd like to do a story about it. And I said, I really not really interested in doing that. And he said, well, maybe you'll positively impact other people to try to do the same thing. Well, that kind of like struck a chord. And I said, sure. So bottom line, he interviewed me. I told him about the program, how we were going to organize it, how we were going to structure it, how we were going to pay out 60 to 80% of the death benefit in cash in one lump sum payment. He asked if I had any clients that would be willing to be interviewed. I had a couple that said yes. And the article appeared in the Miami Herald. Within days, it got picked up by wire services. And next thing I knew, I was getting bombarded with calls from journalists all over the country. Within short order, this little program that I started, because I was running a full-time business on having nothing to do with this in a different industry, the printing and publishing industry. Within a very short order, I got a call from ABC News that Diane Sawyer from Primetime Live wanted to do an interview with me on national television. So at that point, I realized, this is beyond real. The net result is we spawned an industry. We changed forever the way life insurance has been marketed and continues to today. What we started out with in the early 90s is now a multi-billion-dollar industry that is not only dealing with people who are terminally ill, but also senior citizens who predicated upon a mortality table will have only X amount of years left in their life, and so it is what it is.
Yeah, it is. So I just want to pause for a second here, and then we'll continue with what ended up happening because now you're not involved in that industry anymore. Is that correct?
That's correct. I exited the industry back in the middle '90s.
Okay. So wait, let's just pause here for a second. So this is really interesting, and it can be a little conflicting for some people to hear this because on one hand, it's like, oh, he's taking advantage of people who are dying, right? What anybody thinks about insurance, right? And then on the other side of it, when you really dig deep in the whole impetus for this was based on the fact that you saw that there was a way for you to help somebody who was nearing the end of life have a better quality of end of life. So because and with the senior citizens as well, when you get to a certain age, you start like scrimping and scraping. I I have personal experience. We had an aunt who, may she rest in peace, she passed away not that long ago, and she wouldn't even spend the money for a new microwave, $35. And she had some money. She wouldn't spend a penny because the mindset is uh, at that point it's I need to save every little penny I have to make sure that I can pay the bills and pay the hospital bills and that the family pays for the funeral and whatever the doctors are going to charge on the other side of being in hospice and all of that. So when you think about this from a humanitarian point of view, I think that there's this great big opportunity here, and I hope that people are hearing this, that when you get to a certain point in your life and you want to live your freaking life. You have money, what are you saving it for? Enjoy it. And if you have an opportunity or a vehicle that will provide a way for you, you want to go to Europe, it was a dream that you always had and you never got there, and you're close to 90 or whatever the age is that you go, take the money, do something for yourself. So I think because it can be construed as being I think they call it and I don't mean any offense, but I think some people might see this as, well, you're ambulance chasing, right? So because there's that whole mindset also. So there can be a rub here. So you saw an opportunity to help somebody and the intention was good, the outcome was good, and it was so good that now, where is that industry? Who owns it? Who owns the idea? Where is it sitting?
Every life insurance provider in the world, not in the United States, in the world, has a living benefit rider in their policy that allows terminally ill people to sell the death benefit as a result of what we did. And the reason for that is because the early knee-jerk response to taking unfair advantage of the terminally ill has proven to be 1,000% false.
Great.
We've given people back the opportunity to live the balance of their life with dignity, to pay, not to have to worry, do I buy drugs or do I buy food? Taking a non-performing asset and turning it into a life-saving dynamic. And as Diane Sawyer said, we have put life back into life insurance. So it is dynamically changed. Everybody's perception, it's real. Nobody's selling their life insurance policy when they're terminally ill and going on a cruise. They're just putting some normalcy back into their life.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. So how did you get out of it? Like what happened?
Well, what happened was back in the '90s, we were the only one that in the early '90s, we were the only ones doing it. We were buying $1 million worth of life insurance policies a day. And it was a real struggle to go out and find all the funding. There was no empirical data as to what we were doing. We were, proof of concept was happening minute by minute. But there were very few barriers of resistance to go into the business. And there were some bad players that were going into it, people that had larceny in their heart, that would offer to buy a life insurance policy, raise the money, but not give the money to the terminally ill or shortchange them or whatever else. At the same time, we got an unsolicited offer from CNA Insurance in Chicago that wanted to buy our business and build on it. And my first reaction was, what we're doing is just really wonderful. I mean, we just really loved everything that about it. The enhancing the quality of life of the terminally ill was really, really important to us. But they made us an offer that we just really, literally could not refuse. And they bought our company for a lot of money.
Good for
The
you.
net result of that was we being myself and my family that were working with me, we gave almost 75%, about 74% of the money we got, we donated to the various AIDS organizations in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale metropolitan area. And we exited the business. We stayed as consultants to CNA for a little while, but that was pretty much of a non-compete clause dynamic.
Yeah.
We're proud of what we did. We made history. It was a lot of fun. We changed the dynamic in life insurance. We even went, at one point, we were in front of the U.S. Treasury Department in Washington, D.C., lobbying for them to change the tax laws so that the proceeds going to the terminally ill would not be taxed. And we succeeded. So, it was a dynamic aspect of my life. I'm proud of it. I look back on it with smiles and heartfelt emotions. But it was time to move on, and I did.
Yep, that is fantastic. So Maya Angelou has a saying, and I love this saying. I've said it a few times over the course of my life. If you want to leave a legacy, leave a mark that no one can erase. And I would say that you absolutely did that. So good for
Thank
you.
you.
Good.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful thing. So now so many people are benefiting from something that they don't even know where it came from, what the impetus was, who was behind it. So, all of the glory and the cheerleading that happens. I mean, it's what you did, right? And that's probably enough because I know you. You're not a gloating kind of guy. So
Except about my music.
except, well, we're going to get into that. So, okay. So now you've sold that business, and then there's a couple other things that you've got your hands into. So, what else is going on in your life?
Well, after we exited the life insurance finance business, I saw an opportunity in the automotive space. I'm very familiar with that industry, and there were three major automobile auction chains in the United States. But half the industry was mom and pop owned auctions. So I saw an opportunity to go out and offer these family owned automobile auctions an exit opportunity, and to continue to run their auction, get the lion's share of the value in cash, but stay on and run the auction and become a part of a brand new chain. And as a result of that, I built the two largest privately owned auction chains in North America, one in Canada called Canadian Auto Auction Group, and one in the United States called American Auto Auction Group. And today, American Auto Auction Group is one of the largest chains of auctions in the world that I had started. I've sold out my interest a number of years ago, and spent most of the time since then involved in the music world as an entertainer, as a musician. I've been playing clarinet since I was 7 years old. I'll be 80 next year, so it's been a long time, and I love the world of jazz, and that's what I've been doing.
That's so interesting. So we met in Charleston, and this was the music hub for many years. So now, okay, I also know that you live somewhere in the Caribbean and then or Barbados and then you came to Charleston. So how long were you in Barbados for? Am I right? Is
Right.
that
So I started, I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Long Island, moved to Miami, raised my adult children on Miami Beach. From there, I moved to St. John in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where I lived
John?
for 25 years and traveled back and forth to the States every single week for many, many years. And then I moved from the Virgin Islands to Charleston. And I lived in Charleston for 14 years. And then 3 years ago, I decided I was ready for a change. And my wife Lynn and I moved from Charleston to the mountains of Brevard, North Carolina, where we currently live and love it dearly.
Yeah, we miss you here in Charleston. And by
Thank
the
you.
way, for for those of you who don't know, so there's two Charlestons that I know of. There's a Charleston, Virginia, and there's a Charleston, South Carolina. We're talking about Charleston, South Carolina.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I just want to, yeah, I have to clarify that all the time. So, okay, so now you're involved. Now you're, okay, so you're sharing that you're going to be 80 and you're still active, you're still working. So beyond the music, beyond the square dancing, there's something else going on, isn't there?
There is, and I've just started another business.
Oh,
Again, just something that
real
just popped into my
entrepreneur.
mind.
I just
During
want to say something. Wait a second. Wait a second. I just want people to hear this. Okay. The term, and when I introduced you, I said he is the definition of a serial entrepreneur. And this is why I just want to make sure that everybody understands this is exactly why you are the epitome of that because I think it's fabulous. You just keep going, you have these great ideas and so go ahead. Tell us about tell us about what you're doing now.
it started. This thought started to materialize during the COVID pandemic, when people were afraid to go out, afraid to dine or anything else like that, and I started getting really focused on cleanliness and its impact on health and everything else like that. And you go to a restaurant and have a wonderful meal, and then go to the bathroom to wash up or do your business, and the bathroom was a wreck. It was a disaster area, and I started thinking, maybe it's not just about the food when you go to a restaurant. So I have just started a new company called the Lou Report, LOO Report, the Lou Report,
I love it.
and the whole purpose of it is to create content online of reviews of bathrooms at restaurants all over the United States. And we should be live with that, with an app and with a website, sometime in the next 9 to 10 months. It's all being designed right now. We're starting to accumulate reviews, and similar to Yelp and TripAdvisor and things like that. People are volunteering to give reviews. We're giving them a template of what are the things that we're asking them to look at and consider. And just it's a fun thing. We'll see where it goes. My intuitive sense is it's going to be big.
So it's really interesting. So I want to be one of your reviewers. I already know some places. So wait a second. If we review a restaurant or whatever facility, right? Can we do it anonymously so that when we go to eat there, they don't know that it's us that did that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So right now we're focusing and collecting reviews. We haven't published them yet, but we're collecting reviews in major cities, New York, Atlanta, and LA. Obviously, I could do it here locally, but we're trying to scale up as quickly as we can, so that when we do go live in about 9 to 10 months, we'll have thousands of reviews ready to publish.
I think that's fabulous. That's amazing. So, okay. So the life of a serial entrepreneur. Do you ever sleep?
Not a lot, not a lot, but I do. In anticipation of being on your podcast, Deborah, there's some thoughts that I had, and I was reminded of something that Steve Jobs said many, many years ago, and I'll paraphrase it. But basically, every entrepreneur experiences multiple periods of uncertainty, setbacks, and failure. But the two most important factors for success are to maintain your passion and to really believe in your passion and perseverance. That's it. It doesn't matter what the idea is. If you're passionate about it and you persevere, you'll be successful. That's it. That's as simplistic as it could be. And Steve Jobs nailed it when he said it.
Nice. Well, I love that thought and I love that. So how do you, okay, not how, I'm going to ask you, what do you do to keep yourself motivated and inspired when there's a challenge?
I look at challenges as opportunities, both in business and in my personal life, and always have. It's just the way I'm wired. When there is a challenge And the word challenge has so many definitions, but when there is a challenge, there's an opportunity to think through it and to evaluate the various opportunities that you have on how to deal with it. You know, you can walk away with it, you can walk away from it, you can ignore it, or you can deal with it. And if you're going to deal with it, you have many ways of dealing with it. And I find that exercise to be invigorating, to be extremely healthy, and extremely valuable. I could have thrown the towel in a million times when I was establishing the life insurance finance business. Everything from the hardship of trying to raise money, the cost of those funds, the negative publicity initially until people truly understood what we were trying to accomplish. We even got sued by life insurance companies that didn't want to pay us. They thought we won every suit, every single suit. But I mean, all these things. So it doesn't matter whether you're in the life insurance business or you're selling crayons. Every business has its ups and downs. Everybody's personal life have their ups and downs, and you're always going to have multiple periods of uncertainty and setbacks and failures. And I can tell you the biggest growth that I've experienced in my life, in every business I've been in, and in my personal life, was as a result of coming out from a failure.
Yeah,
You
I was
know,
just going to ask you about that. That's an interesting segue. Thank you for being transparent. So, all of the successes have been great and they've been wonderful. And so you've been blessed with, so in your lifetime, they said that Abraham Lincoln lost 16 times before he became president. I think, right? 16 different elections along the way, or something like that. I don't even remember what the number is, but it was a big number, and he kept persevering, to your point. So for you, what was the biggest failure, and what was the takeaway from it?
biggest failure I had was when I was in the printing and publishing business. I had one account that was the super majority of my business, and which put me at enormous risk that if anything happened to that account, if that account wavered in the amount of business it was giving me or decided to go someplace else, it would have an enormous negative impact on me. And I was cognizant of it, but I ignored it.
Mm.
And that may sound, kind of funky, but the reality was I knew it on one side of my brain, and on the other side of my brain, I ignored it. And sure enough, I lost the account to somebody else. And the day that happened, it was woe is me. But that night, it was thank you. I just got a life lesson that is priceless. I got my PhD in survival that night. And I came back stronger than ever over the coming weeks and months in bringing in more accounts and made sure that never again in that business would one account represent more than 10% of my business. And it just meant, go out and hustle harder and diversify.
Yeah.
So that was a great life lesson. In the life insurance industry, there are tons of lessons.
Every day. So I just want to make something, I just want to pronounce something a little bit and bring something, a little bit of a spotlight on it. For any entrepreneur that's listening or watching, for any business owner in any industry, to put all your eggs in one basket. I always call it the Walmart phenomenon. There's been over the years, and especially when Walmart was they came out with and they started their business, and I don't know how many people remember this, but they started their business. Everything was made in the USA, and everything was labeled made in the USA, and they that's how they promoted and branded themselves and got themselves nationally known. And I don't know how many people remember that, but that's exactly how that started. And they would go to, and they got so big that they would go to manufacturers of all the different products or the vendors and any of the distributors and the wholesalers. And they would say, well, you can only sell to us. We have to be your one and only, your exclusive. And a lot of those people were getting paid a lot of money and they just saw the dollars. And to what happened with you, Walmart decided one day, one of my clients actually, they decided that they're not going to buy from them anymore. They found a better price from, that's when they started going overseas. They started bringing in stuff from China, Vietnam, the Philippines, Pakistan, wherever they were bringing stuff in from. It broke my client's business. It broke it. And I don't think my client really ever recovered. So thankfully you had that, that strategy and you were able to pivot quickly. The only other takeaway that I really want to acknowledge you for, and I don't know, you said it, and I don't know if you acknowledged it. You had the intuitive knowledge. You had the intuitive, right? The intuition was there telling you there's a yellow flag here. And in the moment, and it's okay because we all, right, we all learn, there was a mistake. You said you didn't listen to that yellow, right? Because you just kept pushing forward. And I think that is another huge takeaway, that male, female, adult, children, we all have that intuitive side of ourselves. And when we disregard it, it's, it can lead to something that we don't, an occurrence or a happenstance that isn't probably going to have a negative impact or not turn out the way that we would want it to. So when you have that intuition now, if your right brain is saying, warning, warning, how do you handle that now?
Oh, it's so important. I can't think of anything more important when you're making decisions that are going to affect your business, which is going to affect your life and your personal life and your family. Listen to your gut. I mean, that's that's as old as dirt, that line. Listen to your gut. Your heart, that's an important morality check. But your gut in business, that's where the rubber meets the road. If your gut is telling you something, feel it, live it, breathe it, inhale it, and enjoy it, because it's almost always correct.
Yeah, I think trusting it, right? Trusting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this has been great. And I so love you and I miss you and I wish you guys still lived really close, but we're not that far away. So we will be seeing you again very soon. In the meantime, is there anything that or any way that you would want people to connect with you if they were interested in the Lou app or if they want to come to Brevard and participate in your square dancing?
In my square dancing or my music? Well, my email is Steve Simon, my name with the word live, Live, because I still am. Steve Simon Live at gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to me about anything, anytime. I'm awake more than I'm not. So I look forward to hearing from everybody and anybody about anything.
Great. And so the music, so just really quickly, we still have a CD you gave us. Are you still making CDs or are you playing just live or what are you doing?
Well, I sit in with other bands. I have my own band called the Kings of Jazz. We performed every week in St. John the Eunice, Virgin Islands for 10 years. And then I moved to Charleston and we performed the same name of the band, different musicians for 10 years in Charleston. Now I'm up here. I have another band called the Kings of Jazz, and we perform from time to time. I sit in with other jazz musicians. It is joyful. You come up here, I'll play for you.
Okay, well, we're gonna, Steve and I are coming. That's my husband. My husband's name, same name. You guys share the same name. We are coming to Brevard. We're gonna come see you soon. And again, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience and telling your story and being vulnerable and sharing the tougher decisions and the really good ones. So thank you, Steve. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a joy.
Thanks.
Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love.